The day my husband sued me for custody. Chapter 1T. The perfect life that wasn't. My name is Sarah Mitchell, and until 6 months ago, I thought I had the perfect life. I was married to Marcus, a successful corporate lawyer, who drove a BMW and wore expensive suits that made him look like he belonged on magazine covers. We lived in a beautiful suburban home with our 7-year-old daughter Emma, who had her father's dark hair and my green eyes. To anyone looking from the outside, we were the American dream family, but perfect lives, I've learned, are often just well-constructed lies. Marcus had always been controlling. But in those subtle ways that you don't recognize as red flags, until it's too late. He would suggest what I should wear to his company events. Always with a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. Honey, maybe the blue dress instead. You know how conservative my colleagues are. He would critique my cooking with gentle corrections that felt more like criticisms. The chicken is a little dry, don't you think? Maybe next time try the recipe my mother used. For 8 years, I bent myself into whatever shape he wanted me to be. I was the devoted wife who gave up her career in graphic design to be a stay-at-home mother. I was the perfect hostess at his business dinners, always smiling, always agreeable, always making sure his needs came first. I told myself this was what marriage looked like, what sacrifice meant. Emma was my world, my reason for enduring the small humiliations and the gradual erosion of who I used to be. She was bright, curious, and had this amazing ability to see through people's pretenses that only children possess. Sometimes I would catch her watching Marcus with a puzzled expression, as if she couldn't quite figure him out. When I asked her about it, she would just shrug and say, "Daddy acts different when you're not looking." I should have paid more attention to those words. The beginning of the end started on a Tuesday morning in March. Marcus was getting ready for work, adjusting his tie in our bedroom mirror, when he looked at me with that expression I had grown to dread, the one that meant he was about to deliver criticism, disguised as concern. "Sarah, I've been thinking about Emma's development," he said, not meeting my eyes in the mirror. "She's been a bit clingy lately. Overly dependent on you. I think it might be affecting her independence." I was folding laundry on our bed, my hands automatically smoothing the wrinkles from his shirts. "She's 7, Marcus. It's normal for children her age to be close to their mothers. Is it though?" He turned to face me, his expression serious. "I've been reading about child development, and experts say that overprotective mothers can actually harm their children's emotional growth. Emma needs to learn to be more self-sufficient." There was something in his tone that made my stomach clench with unease, but I pushed the feeling aside. Marcus was always reading about something, always had an expert opinion to quote. I had learned to nod and agree, to avoid the arguments that never led anywhere good. "What are you suggesting?" I asked, though part of me didn't want to know the answer. "Maybe Emma should spend more time with me. Father-daughter activities. I could take her on weekends, give you some time to figure out what you want to do with your life." The way he said it made me feel like my life was somehow insufficient. Like being Emma's mother wasn't enough, but I smiled and nodded, because that's what I always did. "That sounds nice. Emma would love spending more time with her daddy." He kissed my cheek before leaving for work, a perfunctory gesture that felt more like a habit than affection. After he was gone, I sat on the edge of our bed, holding one of his shirts, and felt a strange emptiness I couldn't name. The changes started small. Marcus began working later, claiming important cases required his attention. He would come home after Emma was asleep, smelling like expensive cologne that wasn't his usual brand. When I asked about his day, his answers became vague, filled with legal jargon that felt more like barriers than explanations. "You wouldn't understand the complexities, Sarah. It's very technical." But Emma understood things I was missing. Children have this radar for tension that adults often overlook. She started having nightmares, waking up crying and asking me to check if all the doors were locked. She became possessive of her toys, especially her old tablet, a hand-me-down device with a cracked screen that she refused to let us replace. "I like this one better," she would insist when Marcus suggested buying her a new one. "It's special." I thought it was just a phase, the kind of attachment children develop to worn-out blankets or favorite stuffed animals. I had no idea that this cracked tablet would become the key to saving both our lives. The atmosphere in our house grew increasingly tense as spring turned to summer. Marcus became shorter with me. more critical of everything from how I disciplined Emma to how I managed the household budget. He started questioning my parenting decisions in front of Emma, undermining my authority in small but significant ways. "Mommy says you can't have cookies before dinner," Emma would tell him, and he would respond with, "Well, Daddy thinks one cookie won't hurt. Mommy worries too much." Each incident was minor, barely worth arguing about. But together they created a pattern that made me feel like I was losing ground in my own home. Emma began looking confused when Marcus and I gave her different instructions, her eyes darting between us as if trying to figure out which parent to obey. One evening in July, I was tucking Emma into bed when she asked me a question that should have warned me about what was coming. "Mommy, if you and Daddy got divorced, who would I live with?" The question hit me like a physical blow. "Why are you asking that, sweetheart? Daddy and I aren't getting divorced." She was quiet for a long moment, clutching her old tablet against her chest. "Sometimes I hear things. Daddy talks on the phone when he thinks I'm asleep." "What kind of things?" "About how you're not a good mommy. About how I should live with him." Her voice was small, uncertain. "But you are a good mommy, you're the best mommy." I held her close, my heart breaking for the confusion she was experiencing, but also filling with a cold dread. Marcus was planning something, preparing Emma for a reality I hadn't seen coming. I kissed her forehead and promised her that everything would be okay, but deep down, I knew our perfect life was about to shatter completely. I just didn't know how completely, or how the cracked tablet she clutched so tightly would become our salvation. Chapter 2. The Destruction. The papers were served to me on a Thursday morning in August, while Emma was at her friend's house for a playdate. I was in the kitchen making lunch when the doorbell rang, and I opened it to find a stern-looking man in a cheap suit holding a manila envelope. "Sarah Mitchell." "Yes. You've been served." He handed me the envelope and walked away without another word, leaving me standing in my doorway holding what felt like a bomb. With trembling fingers, I opened it and read words that made no sense at first, legal language that seemed designed to inflict maximum pain. Petition for dissolution of marriage. Petition for full custody of minor child. Allegations of parental unfitness. Marcus wasn't just divorcing me, he was trying to take Emma away completely. The document painted me as an unstable, overprotective mother who was damaging our daughter's emotional development. It claimed I had isolated Emma from social activities, had unpredictable mood swings, and was financially irresponsible. Each allegation was crafted with the precision of a lawyer who knew exactly how to weaponize legal language. But the most devastating part came near the end, a statement claiming that Emma herself had expressed preference to live with her father, and that she had told Marcus she was scared of mommy's angry outbursts. I had never had an angry outburst in front of Emma, never. But someone reading this document would believe I was an unfit mother who terrorized her child. I was still sitting at my kitchen table, the papers scattered in front of me, when Marcus came home early from work. He walked in through the garage, as he always did, but instead of his usual perfunctory greeting, he stood in the doorway and looked at me with something that might have been pity. "You got the papers?" It wasn't a question. "Marcus, what is this? What are you doing?" He sat down across from me, carefully adjusting his tie, a nervous habit I had noticed over the years. "I'm doing what's best for Emma. And for you actually. Though you might not see it that way right now. Best for me. You're trying to take my daughter away." "Or daughter," he corrected smoothly. "And I'm trying to save her from a toxic environment. Sarah, you've become unstable, clingy. You're smothering Emma, and she's told me she's unhappy." The words hit me like slaps. "That's not true. Emma has never said anything like that to me." "Of course she hasn't. She's 7 years old, and she's learned to be afraid of your reactions. But she talks to me. Sarah, she tells me things." I stared at this man I had been married to for 8 years, trying to find some trace of the person I thought I knew. "Why are you doing this? If you want a divorce, fine, but Emma needs her mother. Emma needs stability. She needs a parent who can provide for her future without falling apart at every little stress." He stood up, straightening his suit jacket. "My lawyer has documented everything, Sarah. The credit card debts, the social isolation, the way you've been neglecting household responsibilities." "What credit card debts? What are you talking about?" But he was already walking away. "You should get a lawyer. Though honestly, I'm not sure what good it will do." The evidence is pretty overwhelming. After he left, I called the only lawyer I could afford, a friend of my sister's who handled divorces for middle-class families. Jennifer Chen listened patiently as I explained the situation, but I could hear the concern in her voice when she responded. Sarah, I have to be honest with you. If Marcus has the kind of evidence he's claiming, this is going to be very difficult. Family courts take allegations of instability seriously, especially when they involve detailed documentation. But none of it is true. Truth and proof are different things in court. We need to prepare for the possibility that he has built a very convincing case. Do you have any evidence of his unfitness as a parent? I thought about it, trying to remember incidents that might help my case, but came up empty. Marcus had been a decent father, at least on the surface. He hadn't been particularly involved in Emma's day-to-day care, but he had never been abusive or neglectful in any obvious way. No, I admitted. He's always been adequate. Adequate won't win custody cases. We need to focus on proving your stability and fitness as a mother. Can you think of anyone who could testify to your good character? Teachers, neighbors, family friends. Over the following weeks, I discovered how thoroughly Marcus had prepared for this battle. The credit card debts he mentioned turned out to be real, charges for expensive items I had never purchased, all made with a card that had my name on it, but which Marcus had always kept in his wallet, for emergencies. When I tried to dispute the charges, I was told that since the purchases had been made over several months, and since I had never reported the card as stolen, there was no fraud claim to investigate. The social isolation was harder to refute because, in a way, it was true. Marcus had gradually discouraged my friendships over the years, always with reasonable sounding explanations. Do you really want to spend Saturday with Linda? She's so negative, and Emma picks up on that energy. Or, book club sounds nice. But Emma has been asking for more family time lately. By the time he filed for divorce, I realized I had very few close friendships left to lean on, and those few were people Marcus could dismiss as biased or unreliable. The allegations of neglected household responsibilities were supported by photographs, pictures of my kitchen with dirty dishes in the sink, laundry baskets full of unfolded clothes, Emma's toys scattered across the living room. They looked damning in the stark black and white of legal documents. But I knew they had been taken during the week I had the flu and could barely get out of bed. Marcus had insisted I still handle all the household duties because, as he put it, Emma needs routine. Now those same photographs would be used to paint me as a neglectful mother, who couldn't maintain a clean home for her child. The most devastating blow came when Jennifer showed me the psychiatric evaluation Marcus had requested. According to the motion, he had evidence of my concerning behavior patterns, and wanted a professional assessment of my mental fitness to parent. He can do that, I ask. If he has compelling evidence of instability, yes. And Sarah, I have to warn you, if you refuse the evaluation, the court will likely see that as confirmation of his allegations. I felt trapped, cornered by legal maneuvers I didn't understand and couldn't escape. Every choice led to a dead end. Every option seemed designed to prove Marcus's point, that I was unfit to raise my own daughter. But Emma was watching everything with those sharp 7-year-old eyes. And she was recording it all on her cracked tablet, in ways I wouldn't discover until it was almost too late. Chapter 3. The secret witness. Emma had always been an observant child. But during those awful weeks leading up to the custody hearing, she became almost hypervigilant. She would sit quietly in corners, playing games on her old tablet, while the adults around her made decisions about her future. I thought she was trying to escape into her digital world, a coping mechanism for the chaos surrounding her. I had no idea she was gathering evidence. Marcus had moved into the guest bedroom, claiming he needed space to process the end of our marriage. But he still lived in the house. This created a terrible tension that Emma absorbed like a sponge. She began having trouble sleeping, often creeping into my room in the middle of the night to curl up next to me. "Mummy, why is Daddy saying mean things about you?" she asked one night, her voice small in the darkness. "What mean things, sweetheart?" "On the phone. He talks to someone and says you're not a good mommy, but you are a good mommy. You make me feel safe." I held her closer, my heart breaking for what she was overhearing. "Daddy and I are having some problems, Emma. But no matter what happens, I love you more than anything in the world. Will I have to live with just Daddy?" The fear in her voice made me want to cry, but I kept my voice steady. I don't know yet, baby. But whatever happens, you'll always be my little girl, okay? She nodded against my shoulder, but I felt her small body tense with worry. Children shouldn't have to carry such burdens. But Emma was being forced to navigate an adult world of legal battles and custody disputes that threatened to tear apart the only life she had ever known. During the day, when Marcus was at work, Emma and I tried to maintain some normalcy. We baked cookies, read stories, and played in the backyard. But even during these peaceful moments, I could see the stress affecting her. She was more clingy than usual, more prone to tears when small things didn't go her way. The tablet never left her side. She carried it everywhere, even when it wasn't charged. When I suggested we fix the cracked screen or replace it with a newer model, she became almost panicked. No, I need this one. It's important. I assumed it was a security object, like a blanket or stuffed animal. Children often attach special meaning to random objects during times of stress. I had no reason to suspect that Emma was using the device to document the destruction of our family. Marcus's behavior became increasingly strange during this period. He would disappear for hours at a time, claiming to be meeting with his lawyer or preparing for the case. When he returned, he often smelled like perfume that wasn't mine, a sweet, cloying scent that lingered in the hallway after he passed. One evening, I was helping Emma with her homework, when Marcus came home with a woman I had never seen before. She was tall, blonde, and professionally dressed, carrying a briefcase that screamed expensive lawyer. Sarah, this is Dr. Victoria Hammond. She's the child psychologist who will be evaluating our situation. Dr. Hammond smiled at me with practiced warmth that didn't reach her eyes. Ms. Mitchell, I look forward to our sessions. I'll be conducting a comprehensive assessment of the family dynamics to help the court determine what arrangement would be in Emma's best interests. Something about her felt wrong from the moment she walked into my house. The way she looked at Emma, not with the gentle curiosity I would expect from a child psychologist, but with a calculating assessment that made me uncomfortable. The way she positioned herself physically close to Marcus, their familiarity apparent in subtle touches and shared glances. Emma must have picked up on it too, because she moved closer to me and whispered, "I don't like her, Mommy." "That's not very nice, Emma," Marcus said sharply. Hammond is here to help us figure out the best way to take care of you." But Emma had always been an excellent judge of character, and her instincts about Dr. Hammond would prove to be absolutely correct. Over the next few weeks, Dr. Hammond visited our home several times, observing our interactions and taking copious notes. She scheduled individual sessions with Emma, sessions that I wasn't allowed to attend. Each time Emma came out of these meetings, she seemed more withdrawn and anxious. "What does Dr. Hammond ask you about, sweetheart?" "She asks if you ever get angry, if I'm scared of you, if I want to live with Daddy instead." Emma's voice was barely above a whisper. "I tell her you're the best, Mommy, but she keeps asking the same questions different ways." It was clear that Dr. Hammond was not conducting an objective evaluation. She was building a case against me, using leading questions to try to get Emma to say something that could be twisted to support Marcus's allegations. But Emma was smarter than they gave her credit for. At 7 years old, she understood that something wrong was happening, and she began to take matters into her own small hands. Unknown to any of us, Emma had figured out how to use the video recording function on her cracked tablet. The device was old enough that it didn't make the usual recording sounds, and Emma had learned to position it so that it looked like she was just playing games, while actually documenting the conversations happening around her. She recorded Marcus on phone calls with his lawyer, discussing strategy for painting me as unstable. She recorded Dr. Hammond coaching her on what answers would be most helpful during their sessions. Most damning of all, she recorded something that would change everything when it was finally revealed in court. But I wouldn't learn about Emma's secret mission until the day of our custody hearing, when my 7-year-old daughter would stand up in court and say the words that would save us both. "Your Honor, can I show you something my mommy doesn't know about?" Chapter 4C. The professional deception. Dr. Victoria Hammond presented herself as the epitome of professional competence. She had the credentials, the experience, and the polished presentation that made judges take notice. When she testified about her objective observations of our family dynamics. She spoke with the authority of someone who had spent years studying child psychology and family systems. But Emma saw what none of us adults caught. Dr. Hammond wasn't just Marcus's hired expert. She was his lover. The custody hearing was scheduled for a Friday morning in October. I had barely slept the night before, terrified of losing Emma, but trying to remain hopeful that the truth would somehow emerge. Jennifer Chen had prepared our case as best she could, focusing on my years of devoted mothering and the strong bond Emma and I shared. Remember, Sarah, stay calm no matter what they say. Don't let them provoke you into an emotional response. That's exactly what they're hoping for. The courtroom was smaller than I had expected, with wood, paneled walls and fluorescent lighting that made everything look harsh and unforgiving. Marcus sat at the plaintiff's table with his attorney, Harrison Wells, a man whose expensive suit and practiced smile radiated confidence. Dr. Hammond sat in the gallery, ready to be called as an expert witness. Emma was not required to be present for most of the hearing, but she would be brought in later for the judge to speak with her privately. I had explained to her that she might need to answer some questions about our family, and she had nodded with the serious expression she wore when processing difficult information. Marcus testified first, presenting himself as the concerned father, who had reluctantly concluded that his wife was too unstable to provide proper care for their daughter. He spoke about my alleged financial irresponsibility, my social isolation, and what he characterized as my increasingly erratic behavior. Your Honor, I love my wife, but I love my daughter more. Emma has become anxious and withdrawn. And I believe it's because she's walking on eggshells around Sarah's unpredictable mood swings. His performance was masterful, just the right balance of pain and determination, presenting himself as the reluctant hero forced to save his child from an unfit mother. I wanted to scream that it was all lies, but Jennifer's hand on my arm reminded me to stay silent. Dr. Hammond's testimony was even more devastating. She described her extensive evaluation of our family dynamics, painting me as an emotionally unstable woman whose overprotective parenting was damaging Emma's development. In my professional opinion, Your Honor, Emma exhibits classic signs of anxiety disorder, resulting from an enmeshed relationship with her mother. The child has been inadvertently trained to seek approval for normal developmental behaviors, creating a pattern of learned helplessness that could have long-term psychological consequences. The psychological jargon flowed smoothly from her lips, each technical term designed to make her sound more credible, and my parenting more dangerous. She presented charts and graphs showing Emma's concerning behavioral patterns, and recommended immediate intervention to prevent further psychological damage. The child would benefit significantly from primary placement with her father, who can provide the stable, consistent environment she needs to develop healthy independence and emotional regulation skills. When Jennifer cross-examined Dr. Hammond, she tried to poke holes in the evaluation process, but Dr. Hammond had clearly prepared for these questions. She deflected challenges to her methodology with professional confidence, citing research studies and established psychological principles. Dr. Hammond, did you ever observe Mr. Mitchell interacting with Emma during your evaluation? Yes. I conducted several observation sessions with both parents separately to assess their individual parenting styles. And in your professional opinion, Mr. Mitchell demonstrated superior parenting skills. Mr. Mitchell demonstrated a parenting approach that encouraged independence while providing appropriate emotional support. His interactions with Emma were balanced and developmentally appropriate. Every answer was perfectly crafted, every response designed to support Marcus's case while undermining mine. I began to feel the hopelessness creeping in, the terrible certainty that I was going to lose my daughter to a system that valued professional testimony over maternal love. But Emma was watching from the hallway, clutching her cracked tablet, and she had recorded something that would expose the entire charade. During a break in the proceedings, Emma approached Jennifer and tugged on her jacket. Excuse me, but I need to tell the judge something important. Jennifer knelt down to Emma's level. What is it? Sweetie, that lady who says she's helping me, she's lying, and I can prove it. Jennifer looked confused. What do you mean, Emma? Emma held up her tablet, her small face serious with purpose. I recorded her talking to Daddy. They're not just working together. They're kissing and stuff. And they said mean things about Mommy that aren't true. Jennifer's eyes widened as she understood what Emma was telling her. Emma, are you saying you have a video of Dr. Hammond and your father? Lots of videos. I've been recording everything because I knew something was wrong. Mommy always taught me that if someone is doing something bad, you need evidence to prove it. Jennifer looked at me with an expression of stunned hope. Sarah, did you know about this? I stared at my 7-year-old daughter, this small person who had taken it upon herself to document the conspiracy against us. No, I had no idea. Emma, what exactly did you record? Everything, Mommy. The phone calls where Daddy talks about how he's going to take me away. Dr. Hammond telling me what answers I should give. And the gross stuff where they kiss and talk about how stupid you are, and how they're going to be together after they get rid of you. The courtroom was about to become the stage for the most dramatic reversal in custody battle history, orchestrated by a 7-year-old girl who understood justice better than any of the adults around her. Chapter 5e The Child's Testimony. When court reconvened after lunch, Judge Patricia Morgan was prepared to hear final arguments before making her decision about Emma's custody. She had listened to days of testimony painting me as an unfit mother, and I could see in her expression that she was leaning toward granting Marcus's request for full custody. Jennifer Chen stood up with a confidence I hadn't seen before. Your Honor, before we proceed with closing arguments, my client's daughter has requested to address the court. She has evidence that is directly relevant to this custody determination. Harrison Wells, Marcus's attorney, immediately objected. Your Honor, this is highly irregular. The child is only 7 years old, and has no standing to present evidence. This appears to be a desperate attempt to manipulate the court's emotions. But Judge Morgan looked intrigued. What kind of evidence, Counselor Chen? Video recordings, Your Honor. The child has documented interactions between the parties that directly contradict testimony given under oath. I watched Marcus's face go pale as he began to understand what was happening. Dr. Hammond, who had been sitting confidently in the gallery, suddenly looked like she wanted to disappear. They both knew what Emma might have recorded, and the possibility was terrifying. Judge Morgan considered for a moment, then nodded. I'll allow it. Given that this case centers entirely on what's in the child's best interests, I think the court should hear what the child herself has to say. Bring her in. Emma walked into that courtroom with more composure than many adults could muster. She was wearing her favorite blue dress, her dark hair neatly braided, and she carried her cracked tablet like it contained the secrets of the universe. Which, in many ways, it did. Hello, Emma, Judge Morgan said gently. I understand you have something you'd like to show the court. Yes, ma'am. Your Honor, I mean. Emma's voice was clear and strong. My daddy and Dr. Hammond have been lying about my mommy, and I can prove it. The courtroom fell completely silent. Marcus started to stand up, his face flushed with panic, but his attorney pulled him back down. Dr. Hammond looked like she was about to be sick. That's a very serious accusation, Emma. Can you tell me what you mean? Emma nodded solemnly. Dr. Hammond isn't really trying to help me. She's Daddy's girlfriend. And they made a plan to take me away from Mommy, by saying bad things about her that aren't true. Judge Morgan leaned forward, her expression shifting from patience to sharp attention. And you have evidence of this? Yes, ma'am. I recorded them with my tablet. They didn't know I was listening, but I heard everything. Your Honor, I object to this entire proceeding, Harrison Wells said desperately. Whatever this child may have recorded was done without consent and constitutes illegal surveillance. But Jennifer was ready for this argument. Your Honor, Emma recorded these conversations in her own home, where she had every right to be. There is no expectation of privacy for adults who choose to conduct their affairs in the presence of a child. Judge Morgan nodded. The objection is overruled. Emma, can you show us what you recorded? Emma walked to the court clerk's desk, where her tablet was connected to a large monitor that everyone in the courtroom could see. With the confidence of a generation that had grown up with technology, she navigated to her video files and selected one. This one is from last week, she said. Daddy thought I was asleep, but I heard him talking in the kitchen. The video began to play, showing a slightly tilted view of our kitchen from what appeared to be behind the breakfast bar. The audio was clear enough to hear every word of Marcus's phone conversation. No, Victoria, Sarah still doesn't suspect anything. The stupid woman actually thinks you're here to help Emma. Marcus's voice filled the courtroom, and I watched him sink lower in his chair. Your testimony was perfect, the judge is eating it up. She actually believes Sarah is the unstable one. There was a pause while he listened to the person on the other end, clearly Dr. Hammond. Though that wasn't yet apparent from the recording. Of course I'll marry you as soon as this is finalized. We've been planning this for months, baby. Once I have full custody of Emma, we can sell the house and start fresh somewhere else. Maybe California like you wanted. The courtroom erupted in whispers and gasps. Judge Morgan banged her gavel for silence, her face stern with anger. Marcus looked like he was about to pass out, and Dr. Hammond was edging toward the door. But Emma wasn't finished. That's not the worst one, she said matter-of-factly. This one is from when Dr. Hammond came over and they thought I was playing games in the living room. She clicked on another video file, and this time the screen showed Dr. Hammond and Marcus in what was clearly an intimate embrace. They were kissing passionately in our hallway, and their conversation was even more damaging than the first recording. Marcus, are you sure this plan will work? What if Emma tells someone the truth? Emma's 7 years old. Nobody listens to children in custody cases. Besides, after months of our coaching, she's so confused about what's real that she'll say whatever we want her to say. And Sarah really has no idea. Sarah is pathetically naive. She actually thinks I married her for love instead of convenience. Once I get rid of her, Emma and I will have a much better life with you. You're everything. Sarah isn't intelligent, successful, beautiful. Dr. Hammond's voice was clear on the recording. What about the psychological evaluation? Will my report be convincing enough? Your report is perfect. The way you've documented Sarah's instability and Emma's anxiety makes it impossible for any judge to rule in her favor. You've essentially wrapped this custody case for me. The silence in the courtroom was deafening. Judge Morgan's face had gone from stern to furious, and she was staring at Marcus and Dr. Hammond with an expression that could have melted steel. Emma looked up at the judge with those bright, honest eyes. I have 5 more videos like this, Your Honor. They said lots of mean things about Mommy that weren't true. And Dr. Hammond told me that if I said I wanted to live with Daddy, I would get a new bike and lots of toys. Did she now? Judge Morgan's voice was dangerously quiet. And what did you tell Dr. Hammond when she made that offer? Emma, I told her I already have everything I need with Mommy. I don't want toys if it means lying and hurting my mommy's feelings. Judge Morgan looked at Marcus with undisguised contempt, then turned to Dr. Hammond. Dr. Hammond, do you have anything to say about these recordings? Dr. Hammond had gone completely white and was shaking her head frantically. Your Honor, I can explain. Oh, I think you've explained quite enough already. Judge Morgan's voice could have cut glass. Bailiff, please escort Dr. Hammond from my courtroom. I'll be referring this matter to the State Licensing Board and the District Attorney's Office for investigation of perjury charges. As Dr. Hammond was led away, Judge Morgan turned her attention back to Marcus, who looked like he wanted to crawl under the table and disappear forever. Mr. Mitchell, in 30 years on this bench, I have never seen such a calculated, malicious attempt to manipulate the family court system. You have not only committed perjury, but conspired to emotionally abuse your own daughter, in service of your selfish desires. Emma watched all of this with the satisfaction of someone who had seen justice served, then looked up at the judge one more time. Your Honor, can I go sit with my mommy now? Chapter 60 Justice and New Beginnings. Judge Morgan's final ruling was swift and decisive. Not only did she award me full custody of Emma, but she also issued a restraining order requiring Marcus to stay away from both of us pending a full criminal investigation. The judge's words still echo in my memory. Mrs. Mitchell, your daughter has demonstrated more integrity and courage than many adults I see in this courtroom. Emma clearly has an exceptional mother, who has taught her the difference between right and wrong. I cannot imagine a more damning indictment of Mr. Mitchell's fitness as a parent than his willingness to traumatize his own child in pursuit of his selfish goals. The aftermath was swift and thorough. Hammond's psychology license was revoked, and she faced criminal charges for perjury and fraud. Marcus was disbarred and eventually served 18 months in prison for conspiracy, fraud, and perjury. The elaborate scheme they had constructed to destroy my life collapsed completely when confronted with Emma's innocent but devastating evidence. But the real victory wasn't in their punishment, it was in watching Emma return to being a happy, secure 7-year-old who no longer had to carry the weight of adult secrets and lies. In the weeks following the trial, Emma and I had many conversations about what she had experienced and why she had taken it upon herself to record those conversations. I knew something was wrong, Mommy. Dr. Hammond kept trying to get me to say bad things about you. But you never did any of the things she said you did. And Daddy was being mean to you. But then he would act different when other people were around. Why didn't you tell me what you were doing, sweetheart? Because you were already so sad. And I didn't want to make you sadder. But I remembered what you taught me about telling the truth and standing up to bullies. Dr. Hammond and Daddy were being bullies to you. So I had to stop them. My 7-year-old daughter had understood something that I, in my 8 years of marriage to Marcus, had failed to grasp, that love should never require you to diminish yourself or accept lies as truth. Emma's courage in documenting and exposing the conspiracy against us saved both of our lives from being destroyed by Marcus's manipulations. The media picked up our story. Though we tried to keep Emma's involvement as private as possible, several news outlets ran pieces about the 7-year-old who exposed a custody conspiracy, and we received letters from other mothers who had faced similar situations. Emma became something of a hero to children's rights advocates, though she was more interested in getting back to normal second-grade activities than in being famous. Mommy, can we just be regular people now? She asked one evening as we were reading together before bed. What do you mean, baby? I don't want to talk about Daddy or Dr. Hammond or courts anymore. I just want to read stories and play with my friends, and help you make cookies. And that's exactly what we did. We moved to a smaller house in a different neighborhood, one that had never been touched by Marcus's presence. I started freelance graphic design work, slowly rebuilding the career I had abandoned during my marriage. Emma enrolled in a new school where no one knew our story, where she could just be a regular kid with a mother who adored her. The cracked tablet that had been our salvation was finally retired, replaced with a new device that Emma uses for homework and games. But she kept the old one in a special box in her room, a reminder of the time she saved us both through her courage and cleverness. Will you tell this story to other mommies who need help? Emma asked me recently. Why do you think I should do that? Because sometimes grown-ups don't know that kids can see when something is wrong. And sometimes kids need to help their mommies be brave. So here I am, telling our story, hoping it might help other women who find themselves trapped in situations where they feel powerless against those who would use the legal system to perpetuate abuse and manipulation. Emma taught me that sometimes the truth comes from the most unexpected sources, and that courage doesn't always look like what we think it should look like. Sometimes courage is a 7-year-old child with a broken tablet, carefully documenting injustice, because she knows her mommy deserves better. Sometimes the most powerful testimony comes not from expert witnesses or professional evaluations, but from the clear, honest voice of a child who simply wants to protect the person she loves most in the world. Emma is 8 years old now, thriving in her new school, and talking about becoming either a detective or a video game designer when she grows up. Both jobs involve finding out the truth. She explains with the logic that has always made her special. We have breakfast together every morning in our sunny kitchen, just the two of us, and I am grateful every single day for the daughter who refused to let anyone steal our happiness. Emma saved us both, not through manipulation or legal maneuvering, but through simple honesty and an unshakable belief that the truth matters. And in a world that sometimes seems designed to silence children and diminish women, perhaps that's the most radical victory of all. Did you like this story? Tell us in the comments which city you're listening from. If you enjoyed this incredible tale of a mother's love and a daughter's courage, please support us with a super thanks, so we can continue bringing you more amazing life stories like this one. Thank you so much for your support. We look forward to your comments about Emma's brave journey. On the screen, you can see 2 new life stories that we highly recommend. There's so much more content on our channel, don't forget to subscribe. See you in the next life story, with love and respect.